When philosophers talk about identity, mereology, epistemology, and the philosophy of mind, terms such as intention, extension, a priori, and a posteriori, and so on often pop up. In this video, I want to clarify their meaning and how they relate to each other, as well as other concepts and terms. This will be a fairly extensive video, but please bear with me, because I believe that it will benefit you, especially if you're into philosophy. Alright, let's start with intention, spelled with an S. It refers to a term's meaning, its conceptual content, or the attributes associated with it. You can say that our intentional grasp of a term is tied to what we can know a priori about it. By this I mean, if you are a competent speaker of a language, you already know the intention of many words simply in virtue of understanding how they're used. And if you're not sure, you can often get clearer on a word's intention by analyzing its semantic content. That's the idea behind analytic knowledge. That is, gaining understanding by examining meanings, like the concept bachelor. A priori, from the armchair, you can know that bachelors are unmarried, without having to go out into the world and investigate who is or who isn't married. No empirical survey is needed because the claim is true in virtue of the meaning of the term itself, its definition. To make this vivid, let's take the term water. You can know a priori just from the competence with the word that water is the clear, life-sustaining liquid that fills lakes and oceans. You don't need to leave your armchair or run a scientific chemical test to have that meaning in mind. People knew about water before the scientific method. In that sense, you know the intention of water a priori by analytic reflection on the word's meaning and ordinary use. And that is also how the words intention, analytic, and a priori are related to each other. Let's now move to extension. Extension is what an expression actually picks out in a given world. Either the referent or a name or set of things a predicate applies to. In effect, the extension is the specific value that the intention yields in that world. To give an example, in the case of water, its extension in the actual world is H₂O, a fact known only a posteriori through empirical discovery and scientific investigation rather than through conceptual analysis alone. So the claim that water is H₂O is synthetic knowledge. It's not something you can learn by purely analytic armchair reflection on the meaning of water, but only by studying the world. And that is how notions of extension, a posteriori, and synthetic are related to each other. And just to add to that and connect those terms to other terms, a few weeks back I made a video on denotative and connotative definitions. Relating that to what we've been discussing so far, denotative definitions are tied to extension, what terms actually refer to or apply to in the world, while connotative definitions are tied to intention, the meaning or conceptual content associated with those terms. In this table, you can see what terms relate to each other. To sum up what we have learned so far, we can say that intention has to do with the concepts and meanings of terms, while extension is what those terms actually pick out or apply to in the actual world. Now that we've covered the basics, let's change gears and take a closer look at two kinds of intention discussed by philosophers: primary and secondary intention. We'll do this using 2D semantics, specifically the diagonal versus horizontal distinction. The primary intention is basically what I've already been describing. It's the meaning a term has from the armchair, how you would use the term based on your concept of it, before knowing deeper facts about what it's made of or picks out in the world. It tracks epistemic possibilities, ways the world might turn out, for all you know. For example, if the primary intention of water is the clear, life-sustaining liquid that fills lakes and oceans, in other words, whatever plays the watery role, Then, on an alien planet where ammonia or NH3 plays the same role, we could also call that liquid water, even though it isn't H₂O. However, once we learn through scientific investigation that water is H₂O, we thereby fix the referent of the word water as H₂O in the actual world. And once that reference is fixed, we can no longer count the alien planet's ammonia liquid as water because NH3 is not H₂O, even if it is also a clear life-sustaining liquid that fills lakes and oceans. In that sense, the rigidified use of water to pick out H₂O across possible worlds is what philosophers call the secondary intention. In short, the primary intention of a term is whatever fits the concept or role, while the secondary intention is whatever the term actually turns out to be, carried across possible worlds. So the secondary intention is the meaning a term has once we fix what it actually refers to in the real world, typically through observation or scientific investigation. I would also like to make clear that even though having the same intention means you have the same extension, the reverse is not true. Namely, having the same extension does not mean that you have the same intention. So two concepts can apply to the same object but still have different intentions or meanings. For example, the concept of being the tallest building in Paris is different from the concept of being the centerpiece of the 1989 World Fair. They have clearly different meanings or intentions. Nevertheless, these two concepts have the same extension, as they both apply to the Eiffel Tower. Moving on, you may ask, what is the difference between secondary intention and extension? Let me explain with an example. For centuries, people used to refer to Hesperus as the bright object seen in the evening sky, while Phosphorus was the bright object seen in the morning sky. But once astronomy demonstrated that both terms refer to the planet Venus, the reference was fixed. Across possible worlds, morning star and evening star rigidly tracks Venus. So Hesperus and Phosphorus are different ways of picking something out from an observer's perspective. So the primary intentions differ. So we could say that the extension of Hesperus and Phosphorus is the actual object, namely the planet Venus in the actual world, while the secondary intention is the semantic rule that fixes the reference across possible worlds. So regarding the secondary intention for the morning and the evening stars, it would be the rule, in any possible world, Hesperus and Phosphorus refers to Venus. And that's the difference between secondary intention and extension. Sorry for the long video, but I really wanted to do justice to these important philosophical terms that come up so often.